Hello and welcome to another video. Welcome back to another 5 Minute Friday. Every Friday, as always, we're posting a video telling you how to train optimally. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about how hard you need to be training in order to maximize that hypertrophy. Now, I'm going to mention a thing called an RPE scale. Now, this is rate of perceived exertion, basically meaning that an RPE of 10 would mean that you've got absolutely 0 reps left. You can't possibly do another rep. RPE 8 might be somewhere in the range of 2 to 3 reps in the tank, and then as we go down, you've got more and more reps in reserve. Just a reminder, if you are enjoying this type of content and you want to see more about fitness and hypertrophy and anything to do with that, make sure to drop a like on this video and subscribe to the channel to see more. So looking at the majority of the evidence that we have today, it's looking like you're going to have to train to at least an RPE 6. So this means that you've probably got around 4 reps left in the tank. Now, it can be slightly hard to sort of know when this RPE 6 is, especially if you've never fully trained to absolute failure. So that is one thing that I would advise. If you're sort of a beginner to intermediate, you're not really sure where failure is, it might be a good idea to test where failure is, so then you know how many reps you've got in the tank when you're looking to train at RPE 6. There's not a lot of times where you would train at RPE 6 other than when just coming off a deload. So a deload is when you reduce training volume and intensity to recover. Now, you might train at RPE 6 after this to get yourself back into training, starting with a low volume, low intensity, so that you can increase both them two factors over your training block. So the real question that everyone's asking is, what is actually optimal? Is it RPE 6, RPE 7, or even RPE 10, training to failure every single set? So this really depends on you. It depends how you adapt and respond to certain types of training. So another thing that you've got to consider is how much you're actually going to enjoy it. So me personally, I really enjoy training to absolute failure and grinding out that last rep, going for one more rep every single time. It's easier for me to sort of see my progression, my strength progression in the gym, than it would be if I was doing an RPE based program. But some people prefer the RPE based program. So I'll show you a graph now that might help you to sort of decide what your preference is going to be, and I'll give you the benefits of each. So as you can see on this graph, up the y-axis we've got hypertrophic potential, and then across the x-axis we've got RPE. Once again, being a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being absolute failure. So as you can see, the difference in hypertrophy that you can get between, let's say, a 4 and a 6 is absolutely drastic, the amount of hypertrophy possibility that you can get. Whereas the difference between a 6, once again here, and a 9 is much, much less. As you can see, the difference that you get from these two RPEs is quite drastic. So the argument is, let's say you're training between a 6 and an 8 RPE. You're not leaving too much hypertrophy on the table. However, the amount of recovery that's required to recover from a set of an RPE 6 or 8 is much, much less than the recovery required to recover from a set of RPE 10. So therefore, doing this lower RPE allows you to do a greater amount of volume throughout the weeks. And as we know, volume is one of, or if not the key driver of hypertrophy. So it's a good argument that you'll be able to do more volume because, like I said, volume's the driver of hypertrophy. However, you can still drive training volume up when you're doing a training program that mainly focuses on training to failure. This is because although yes, you are probably going to be able to do more sets in an RPE based program, there's many other ways to increase volume. For example, if you're getting stronger, you might increase the reps, that'll be increased volume. You might increase the weight that you're using, that's all increased volume. So the argument that it's going to be better for getting more volume in and being able to progress that volume is probably not really much of an argument, and both ways are definitely going to work. So the main take-home key points of this video are: train to at least an RPE of 6, I would recommend. This is because the extra hypertrophic potential that you get from training to an RPE 6 rather than an RPE of 5 is massive, in contrast to, say, training to an RPE of 6 instead of an RPE of 7 or 8 or 9 or 10. You must still keep in mind that there is still some extra hypertrophic potential when you do train to an RPE of 10, training to failure. So you should consider this when designing your training program. Another thing that you should consider when designing your training program is how much training to failure or RPE based training you want to put in. The more training to failure that you're going to put in, the less volume you're going to be able to do. So what I'd recommend is starting your program off with a low volume, and if you are able to recover from this low volume, add in a set here and there, see if you're still getting stronger, see if you're still recovering properly, and then you can go from there on with your training program. So thanks very much for watching. I hope you now understand exactly how hard you should be training, at least to an RPE 6. If you've got any questions on RPE based training or how hard you should train or anything else, drop it in the comments. I'll make sure I'll answer that. If you enjoyed this video, like, subscribe, comment if you enjoyed it, and I will see you on Series Sunday.